We have a crisis in the world, tremendous crisis, and also crisis in our consciousness, in us. I see the urgency of change, radical revolution, mutation in the mind. I see it. It is necessary. There is complete quietness of the mind, and that which is silent has vast space. Only then that which is nameless comes into being.
This is Urgency of Change, the Krishnamurti podcast. Hello and welcome to episode 8 of Urgency of Change. On this week's episode is Krishnamurti's second conversation with Iris Murdoch. The conversation is titled, What Do We Mean by Conditioning? Next week's episode is with Jonas Salk, entitled, What Makes Us Change? This podcast is brought to you by Krishnamurti Foundation Trust in the UK. For more information about our activities and programs, such as the Krishnamurti Retreat Centre, which is located in the South Downs National Park, please visit our website at kfoundation.org. You can also find us on Instagram and Facebook at Krishnamurti Foundation Trust. If you enjoy our podcast, please let your friends know about it and leave a review online. This would help us gain visibility. Iris Murdoch was a Booker Prize-winning novelist and philosopher. Her many books include The Bell, The Black Prince, and The Sea, the Sea. In this second conversation, Krishnamurti and Murdoch look at why we are fragmented and how our way of thinking and acting is comparatively like the rest of mankind, and that we are the rest of humanity because we all suffer. Krishnamurti states that when there is love, there is truth and beauty.
Right, now we can start.
Well, I'm still trying to formulate some fundamental question which I can't grip or entirely see at the moment. Perhaps I could sort of walk round it a bit and ask one or two different sorts of questions for a moment. You feel the idea of duty, I think, is very...
Duty?
Duty, yes. The idea of duty, I think, is a fundamental one in most moral systems.
Yes.
I mean, the philosophers argue about it, but there it is. People are taught, when they are growing up, they're taught duties. That
Duty,
they ought to tell the truth, for instance. Yeah. And other things being equal, they ought to tell the truth, perhaps they ought always to tell the truth. Well, you shy away from the idea of duty.
I feel responsibility is better than duty.
Well, all right. Well, then, but responsibility, then, a sense of responsibility would be a sense of duty.
No.
Well, under some circumstances, one could extend the two ideas in different directions, but you would rather call it a sense of responsibility.
Responsibility, yes.
Yes.
Because responsibility implies care,
yes,
affection,
yes,
a sense of communication with other person.
yes,
Not doing something because you're obliged to do, or disciplined to do, or told to do, but be responsible. If I undertake to build a house, I'm responsible for building a house.
yes.
If I'm responsible for my children, I will be responsible completely, not only till they pass out of my house, but I would see that they live properly, brought up, no killing, no...
Yes, there would be no limits to
no
the idea.
limits to responsibility.
Yes, I mean, one connects perhaps duty with very definite things which have to be done. But on the other hand, if you take something like a duty to tell the truth, that's something so fundamental.
No,
that
but
really
telling the truth is part of my responsibility. I wouldn't be dishonest to myself.
Yes, well, don't let's worry then about the word duty. But this is a case where one's dealing with an aspect of human life which is which belongs to the continuity of life.
Continuity of
And
life.
would you say that just by that being so, that it is an everyday notion which is part of the decent moral continuity of a society's life, would you regard it as being essentially different from what we were talking about this morning, from the real thing,
Yes,
and
yes.
from love?
Yes, I would consider different.
But I don't see quite where the division comes. I mean, I'm always trying to build up
Yes,
round
I know
those
you're- I see the
structures, which I want to see where the division comes between ordinary, what we would call goodness or moral behaviour, and this fundamental thing.
Could we start, why are we fragmented? Why do we look at life and all our actions and our business, whatever it is, always this fragment, business, religion, love, hate, you follow? It's all so broken up.
Well, I mean,
Why? Why do we do this?
well, life has to be dealt with. I mean,
Yes,
every
but
day you have
why
to
should I
sort
accept
it
life
out.
to be dealt with in this way?
I think because to unify it, I mean, to have a unitary, I mean, you seem to feel that we should have some kind of completely unitary selflessness, which then isn't divisible.
Yes, that's it.
But then, I mean, let's say the words like truth and love.
Are one. If there is love, there is truth. There is beauty.
Yes, this is so. If one is looking at it in a philosophical sense, but somebody.
No, in actual sense. I mean, if I have really loved, there is beauty in it.
Yes, well,
I can't be dishonest.
Yes, beauty is a more difficult concept for this purpose. At least I feel. What worries me is the point of connection between the truth, which is love, the fundamental truth, and ordinary conceptions of truth, as in tell the truth.
Oh, yes, I suppose I've lied. And I acknowledge I've lied. I acknowledge if I've been angry. That's honesty. That is the truth in ordinary sense of the word.
Yes.
I don't cover up my lie with lots of phony stuff. I said I've lied. I've been angry. I've been sorry. I've been brutal. It's. I think we are so trained to cover up all this kind of thing, to escape from all this, not being terribly honest to oneself.
Yes. Well, how does this connect with your? One of the things which I think you're very much concerned with is overcoming conflict.
Yes.
And overcoming separatist
Yes, that's
thinking
right.
and so on. This then does suggest that there's some. You make these distinctions between desire and love, for instance, and you then bring truth into the center by saying that love is truth.
Yes, of course.
Yes. But this doesn't seem to me to connect very easily, and this is where the idea of my ideas, say, about purifying desire or something would come in. This doesn't connect very easily with ordinary moral life.
No.
I mean, it looks as if one would have two judgments of morality. You'd say he's a good man in the ordinary sense of the word, but is an imperfect man in your sense of the word.
Yes.
And isn't it important, I can't think of a way of putting this, for you, I'm thinking of you as someone wishing well to men, isn't it important for you to make connections?
Yes, I say this.
Yeah.
Look, let us. I would ask myself, or I'd ask my friend, why are we fragmented first?
Well, you want to go back to a metaphysical question right at the beginning.
Of course, from there you have to start.
Yes, I do. Yes, yes. This is your feeling that we must be right at the beginning all the time.
All the time.
And I mean, I like this too in a way. And what you say about new, that what you want is something new. You use the word new.
Yes.
That is not the acquired collection
Yes.
of what one has, but something new.
I mean, I've asked these students in my discussions, why is it we are fragmented like this, broken up? What has gone wrong with us? After so millions of years, we are still fighting, either killing each other, we are angry. You follow what I mean? What's wrong?
Well, there's a sense of conflict or fragmented, which is bad, which means that we're fighting. But there's also ordinary discursive reason and how we set about getting to know things.
Yes,
and,
yes.
acting
Say, for
in
instance,
time, which isn't necessarily
I use
bad.
my reason to see why the world is divided into these kind of things, like nationalities, religions. You know what's happening in India, the Sikhs
Yes, yes.
and the Jews, the Arabs. Why? Why do
Well-
we accept this way of living?
Well, yes, but I think there's a kind of empirical, ordinary answer to this, that we can try and stop it by doing all sorts of things like people do when they talk to other people. And
But we don't, madam. The fact is we've never done it. We haven't stopped this division. I mean, if I had a son with an Arab woman, a son with a Israeli woman, what am I to do? They're fighting.
yes, a part, I think, you wouldn't deny this, would you, that part of what you want to communicate is something which would have practical effects
It has practical.
in politics.
Yes, politics, religion, daily
Yes.
life.
Yes.
Which is, I would say, look, don't let's start with theories and all that. Let's start why we human beings, right throughout the world, are so broken up, so divided in ourselves.
But this is partly a, it seems to me it's partly an empirical question, in that you could say why we can find out why a certain religion held certain views at a certain time and separated off. One could study Christianity in this way, but there's a sort of metaphysical question,
Yes.
which I would think is partly unanswerable. I mean, it's like saying, well, why are there human beings?
No.
I mean, where one must say, well, I don't know. I mean, some people who believe in God would
of
say
course, I mean,
God
that-
created the world.
And,
we're
the
intended-
scientists have different
Yes.
reasons for way.
Yes, I mean, if you exclude the empirical answer, you're asking a kind of metaphysical question, which
No.
in a way can't be
I think it's very
can't be answered.
Why is it, now I would like to ask, is it that thought itself is fragmented?
Well, I think thought itself is fragmented, and it seems to me, in a sense, unavoidably so. I mean, what we're doing now, using a natural language
Language, yeah.
and concepts
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
using words
Yeah.
which we've learned to understand
Yeah.
and so on, this is something which depends on a spreading out of interest to the world
Yes.
in many, many different ways. I mean,
So-
the word discursive sort of covers perhaps this
quite.
kind of notion that the intellect has to spread itself out. It has to emerge into language and so on. It can't be a compact,
No.
can't
no,
be
of course
one,
not, of course not.
which many philosophers want. They want to think that there's a one. But in your rejection of, you won't allow, you don't seem to me to allow, to put it this way, the redemption of the world. I mean, the bringing of the world into the centre, into goodness, into truth.
Yes,
love.
I I say yes, it must be.
Well, yes, but then one can't get rid of all fragmentation. One's got to redeem it, if you see what I mean. To
Yes.
get rid of
All
bad
right, let's
fragmentation.
redeem
And-
it. Let us now, human beings, why are they like this? Let's redeem that. Not intellectually explaining, but the fact, daily fact. Why is it that there is such conflict, such violence?
Well, again, when there are many. I mean, if it takes Ireland, for instance, I mean, there are many reasons,
of course.
Historical reasons why there is a conflict in
Yes,
Ireland.
I know.
But you're thinking of a much deeper thing.
Much deeper thing, naturally.
Which, but it seems to me this I can't. Well, if somebody asks me that, I mean, I would say I can't answer the metaphysical question. What I can say is, why ought it not to be so? And this uses the word ought, which you don't want.
Quite.
That we have a conception of goodness, which from which we spread, as it were, all kinds of thought and action into the world. This is putting it very badly.
I understand.
Hoping that gradually we can make the world better and remove conflict in the superficial sense and in the deeper sense too.
We have lived on this earth, according to scientists and biology and all the rest of it, at least 2 or 3 million years, evolved. We are still at it.
Yes, we are.
I mean, just look what is happening.
And who can say what the future holds? But
the future is what we are now. If we don't do something now, we'll be exactly tomorrow.
Yes, but what we can do now is something very limited, really. We can do something to ourselves.
Yes.
And we can do something to a small number of people.
But ourselves is the world.
And we can also take part in politics, which is a way
but
of helping the world.
I am the rest of the world. Because my consciousness is like the rest of mankind.
Yes, you mean that if you can do it, other people can do it.
If I change, I affect it.
Yes, well, there's also the fact that one has a very limited amount of time in which to achieve this insight.
That's why don't let time interfere with this question. I am a human being. My way of life, my way of thinking, my action is comparatively like the rest of mankind.
Yeah.
They may have outward different, but deeply, I'm the rest of mankind. I am mankind.
Well, except that you're a very unusual person, but leaving that aside.
No, I am mankind, because we all suffer, we all go through a hell of a time. So, I am the rest of mankind, so I am humanity. That is real love.
Yes, but how does this...
Therefore, see, I'll show you.
If somebody says, well, all right, but you're just you're by yourself. I mean, you may be showing what is a human potential.
But
you show what a human
come and join me. Come and join me.
Yes, well...
come and let go your petty little nationalisms and all the rest. Come and join. Let's be free and look at the world differently. And not always keep in conflict with each other. Every husband, wife, madam, this is happening every day of one's existence.
Yes, but I can't help putting the problem in terms of how much influence can one have. And if one is going to teach people, don't let's think of you and me now, but if anybody wants to influence people in order to bring about the end of this period of conflict and so on, they have to involve themselves in persuasion, in politics, for instance.
You see what has happened.
And many people would say, many people do say now that to worry about your own soul and whether you are selfless or not is a waste of time. We must simply go and help other people.
Yeah.
Go and stop people from suffering.
Yes, help other people. See what is happening with those people who are helping and those people who are helped.
Well...
you can see what there is very little. Hitler wanted to... For the same... Buddha said, too, he said, mankind suffers, there must be end to suffering, right? And look what they've done. Suffering is going on.
Yes.
So,
When you think, sorry, I keep wanting to turn it round a bit so that I can get a bit more light. When you speak of overcoming conflict and overcoming suffering,
not overcoming, ending.
ending, yes. Are you thinking of a kind of, I mean, is this anything like what a Buddhist would think of as nirvana?
Apparently nirvana means, from what I've discussed with people, a state in which the self is not. The self, in the sense, all the turmoil and all that. Come to that point. Don't discuss what nirvana is. You'll find out.
Yes, I mean, I would understand something like this as meaning that one is in a selfless condition, and the denial of the world is the meaninglessness of
that's what they've done.
all these other things. Which,
deny the world.
Yes, but then...
But I don't say deny the world. On the contrary, we have to live here.
Yes. I mean, if one thinks of Plato's image of the cave, that you're in the darkness and then gradually you move out into the light,
I know.
he also speaks about coming back into the cave, by which I think he means that you find some kind of liberation for yourself, but then you have to liberate everybody else as well.
That's the point. You know, the whole sense of bodhisattva and all that, I won't go into all that.
Yes.
But if you change fundamentally, won't it affect the mankind?
It'll affect a certain number of people.
No, you'll look. Christianity is affected how many millions?
Yes, certainly. I was about to say that there are cases like the life of Christ, whether Christ really existed
that is
as a
irrelevant.
historical man or not. The image of Christ
Therefore,
has
I'm
changed
saying,
people's lives.
Through propaganda, they have changed, right?
Yes.
They have, etc. Now, Buddhism has affected the whole of Asia.
Yes. Yes, all right, but you would go on to say that nevertheless...
Yes. I say, let's few of us work at this. Then we'll change the world.
But I think we have had great teachers who have had a great deal of influence, who have, as far as I can see, advocated a kind of selflessness, which is not unlike what you are speaking of.
Freedom. Freedom from the self.
But what is one to do? I mean, it doesn't seem to me that...
Oh, no, no, of course, what is one to do requires sitting down, talking about it, going into it. Right? Naturally.
Yes, I think this
and breaking down barriers between us.
We've come perhaps onto a slightly different kind of question, a question about influence and...
I don't want to influence anyone. That's the worst thing to happen, because if I influence you, somebody else will come around and influence you too in another direction.
Well, yes, but
But if you see something for yourself, it's clear.
Well, yes, that again is something which we agree about, that you have to do the thing yourself.
Yes.
It's no good being told by somebody.
Therefore, no propaganda, no programming.
This is something which I think theologians are realizing now, that you can't have God thrust upon you. I mean, whatever the spiritual life is something which you have to discover for yourself and appropriate for yourself.
In the spiritual world, there is no authority.
Yes, I
mean,
agree,
but now
absolutely.
everything is there. They want authority. People want some kind of security in authority.
Yes, well, I don't myself see any answer to the problem of how the discovery of spiritual truth, or whatever this may be, can change the world. That is, you perhaps have more hope for the world than I have.
No, I am neither pessimistic nor optimistic. But I see, unless there are few of us radically change the whole psychological structure, we're going down the hill all the time. That's all.
Yes, well, I agree with that too. I mean, if the world lost people who were concerned with what you're concerned with, I think that it would lose its centre in some
Yes,
way.
that's what I mean. But there are very few people who are concerned to be totally free from all this.
Yes. But then you want to put it sort of bluntly, as it were, you want there to be more of such people, but at the same time you reject traditional methods of, for instance, ideas of duty, ideas of asceticism and so on, which have been, as it were, part of the training of people who achieve, perhaps, this
why
state.
should I be trained? If I see something to be true, I stick to it. Why should
Yes, but
train
I
it?
think you've probably had a gift of grace, or what a Christian would call grace, which a lot of people haven't had. That is, what you achieve easily would be very, very difficult to achieve for the majority of people.
Perhaps that may be, but I mean, after all, there must be. All right, if you use the word grace, all right, be in a state to receive that.
Yes, yes.
Which means don't be selfish, don't be have conflict, have some kind of inward silence.
Yes, I agree entirely with this. Yes, I think, I mean, don't let's argue about the question of influence or politics, because I understand your position here. I think I would think, I mean, I would feel that it is perhaps important to try in certain ways to influence one's surroundings. But I mean, I know that this is full of difficulties. I'd rather, in a way, stick to the question we were worrying at this morning, though I don't quite see how to find the way of enlightening myself on this subject. It's partly to do with the question of time and fragmentation. Time is fragmentation.
Yes. So
and
that's it.
Yes.
To be free of time.
Yes. And to be
that means no movement forward.
Yes, free and in the truth and love, and not to be acquiring and not to be planning.
Yes, that's right.
How, I mean, would one, if one were in this, if one had this kind of insight, or however you're going to put it, would one know that one had it?
I think one wouldn't know, but it will show in your actions.
Yes, yes.
In your daily life.
Yes. But you do accept then that there are two. It seems to me that you are thinking in terms of two entirely different planes, and I'm wanting to connect the two.
No,
and you refuse this connection.
There's a physical plane, right?
Yes. Well, there's a psychological plane then also, which is what we were speaking of at the very start.
All the time.
Yes.
Psychological plane. Why should there be division there? Why should there be superior psychology or lower psychology? It is whole psychology.
Yes. I mean, some kind of redemption. I introduced the word redemption.
It doesn't matter. Yes,
of the sort of psychological hurly-burly of one's mind. Yeah. I mean, it seems to me it can happen in a quite ordinary way. I mean, people wouldn't be puzzled by it. It would just be a sort of natural function.
See, I would to be redeemed by whom?
Well,
if I look to you to be redeemed, I'm lost.
Yes, I'm not thinking of being redeemed in the Christian sense.
No, or in any.
I just mean by redeemed, I just mean that something which is fragmented is drawn in, using an image of,
yes, I understand.
Of a centre and of outlying parts. I mean, picture somebody, what I'm trying to I'm all the time trying to discover where this divide is, that you make a divide between, say, the life of a very good man. I mean, let's
think, good.
Yes, of an ordinary, very virtuous man who's been very unselfish in the ordinary sense and done a lot of good to people and so on. Between that life and the life of truth.
That's totally different.
Well, why is it totally different?
Of course it is.
I mean, you can say, this seems to be a metaphysical remark to say it's totally different.
I know both.
Yes, you don't mind.
Both are metaphysical.
Let's go on. Go on. Mm.
And after all, the self is a very subtle, cunning thing. It can hide under prayers.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
It can hide under every little action, thinking it's noble.
Yes.
I'm helping mankind.
Yes, yes, yes.
I am influenced for the good.
Yes, yes. Yes. I'm really a remarkable person, admired by everybody, in brackets, as it were. Yes, yes. Mm.
So,
yes.
To understand that, what the self is, you require such observation, such in daily looking at it. Not just say I'm free at one moment and say that's it, but it requires such attention to everything that you're doing.
So you would think that if somebody was entirely absorbed in outward action, as it were,
that's the most dangerous.
He wouldn't be in the truth.
That's the most dangerous thing.
So a certain amount of fundamental quietness. I mean, this could be compatible with leading an active life, couldn't it?
That silence is not the product of thought.
Yes, yes, okay, that's good, yes.
That silence is not to be cultivated.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, I think I believe in that silence too.
Silence, quiet.
It's
inside there is no movement.
Yes. And this would connect with what you say about living in the present.
Yes.
Yes. And timelessness.
I don't know, meditation is an extraordinary thing, I've talked to various types of people who meditate.
Yes, yes.
Tibetan, Hindu,
yes,
Buddhist,
yes.
Zen, all the rest of it.
Yes.
It's all a conscious, deliberate effect. It isn't something you do for the love of it.
Yes.
Not meditate for the love, you can love and yet be selfish. But I mean in the sense, to do meditation without conscious effort.
Yes, I think any means that one adopts towards goodness is likely to become a barrier.
Absolutely.
It's likely to, because one seeks idols. I mean, we are idol worshippers.
Oh, that's finished.
Yes.
That's not meditation.
That one seeks a consolation in the feeling that you're doing something. Yes, but nevertheless, doing it could help you.
I've talked to people who have spent years, please, I mean it.
Yes.
25 years.
Yes.
And they come, and a man came to me who was about 70, much older than I was, and he said, I've spent 25 years in the jungle, wandering over, begging, and I've deceived myself all along.
Well, he's to be congratulated, I suppose.
Yeah, I know, that shows something.
He was prepared to say something like that, because people
Therefore,
don't often admit.
To be really quiet is something you can't cultivate, you can't get it by practice and all the rest of it. So it is your daily life you have to be quiet.
It comes by a gift, perhaps.
No. Your daily life, madam. Otherwise,
Well, if you say...
what's the value of your quietness? If your daily life is not effective, if your daily life isn't without conflict.
Well, of course. I mean, this is why, I mean, I'm constantly wanting to say that the connection with one's daily life is a fundamental idea.
Yes.
I mean, if somebody claimed to have this quietness but behaved badly in ordinary life, I would be skeptical.
I know some are.
Yes. So that I think what you're... I mean, my own thoughts on this subject are, I think, influenced by Plato. And I think, or I feel, perhaps, that something that you're insisting on is which he also insisted on, was the absolute separateness.
Huh?
The absolute separateness of this idea of the timeless and eternal. That it's quite separate from what we ordinarily think of as goodness, which is a kind of idolatry.
Idolatry,
yes.
Right.
And he uses the image of destroying idols, that you destroy images, you destroy idols, and you go on. But of course he does picture life as a pilgrimage in a way in which I think you don't. You don't want to think, because the idea of the pilgrimage itself.
If I have no images in myself about anything, there's no self in there.
Yes, that you're really picturing what many spiritual people have thought of as the end of the journey. I mean, that you're at the end, except that you want to insist that, of course, one is already, in a sense, potentially at the end, or that there is only...
One has to be careful of that too, because the Hindus believe there's God, there's Atman inside, and that give him a chance, peel off your ignorance, and then you will be like that. That's an assumption. I don't want to assume anything.
Well, yes, I think there's a metaphysical, I wouldn't call it assumption, because it's something I agree with, so I would
It is an
use the word
idea.
assumption.
It's an idea.
Yes, but this is a metaphysical assertion,
Yes.
or a religious, or you wouldn't want to use the word religious, because that might be misleading.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a concept which has been cultivated, which has been traditional,
Yes.
and that's no meaning. Because, look, I have this concept, the God is in me, and then I go and kill somebody.
Well, yes, I mean, anything involving the idea of a God is, of course, already, in a sense, an idol.
That's all I'm saying.
Yes.
We are idol worshippers, whether it's handmade or mental, made by the mind.
Yes. So that the the absoluteness of the division for you, and I think I perhaps see what you mean. I'm not quite sure, between the ordinary process of life and this being in the truth, which is something which lives in the present in the way in which something eternal must live in the present, if you see what I mean. You must insist on it being quite separate from the world of the idols.
Yes. Absolutely, of course.
Yes. Well, that
after all, that should be man's search has been for eternity.
Yes. Well, that's what people.
They made an idea of it.
Yes, which is not continuation of time, but is quite different from
it's the end of time.
Yes. Well, I think, thinking about Plato, I come to some understanding of what you've been saying.
It's up us too.
I think we must end here. Yes. Oh dear.
Well, better
thank
stop,
you very
sir.
much. Yes, I think we must.